so many people are in relationships of all kinds, whether they're friendships or, romantic partnerships or marriages, or where they feel like, I love this person. And also we're growing either in totally different directions or at totally different paces. And they're struggling because they are scared to leave, or they don't want to be alone, or they don't want to feel like their expectation they had going into it wasn't met. And how did you have, there's just such through lines in your book, and in so many things about learning to trust yourself, and step into your power. And a lot of people are scared to. So in the decision to divorce, how did you get there? When before it was like, let me make sure I'm safe and protect myself and put people around me to protect me.
So I'll give you kind of like an overview of the things and the people and the environments that were put into place to protect myself. And then that will show the unraveling. So I also had an assistant of 8 years who we met when I was 23. She was 23, I was 24. And we grew together, but we became very codependent. And there was an enmeshment in our relationship. She cared so much, and she cared not just about me, but she cared about the work and doing great things. But we really had a dependency on each other. And then I got married, and I also had 2 dogs that were my kids. I mean, I had them for 11 years and for 8 years, and they were everything to me. So that was another, sense of safety that I had. My brother and Haley, they also lived with my ex-husband and I in our house for like 3 years. I also started a company that was Kinergy, and it was all just this beautiful, pure intention of like, helping people connect to themselves and heal. And so all these things were like in my orbit. And as this little girl was dropping more into the woman and going on that journey, all these things started unraveling. I mean, my relationship with my old assistant, the unhealthiness started showing up of we're codependent on each other, and this is either going to continue on, and this is going to become even more unhealthy, and this is going to blow up in a way that might hurt our friendship. So I think we need to maybe take a break or work on this or something, or stop working together so that we can be friends as like an option. And at the time, again, maturity, I think we didn't have maybe the tools or the communication in order to work through it. And so we decided to part ways. So that was the first part of the unraveling. And that was a relationship. That was 8 years with someone. And I mean, she was everything. I mean, she was my best friend, and she still is. But we decided to part ways, and that was a breakup, and it was really, really hard. And it had already been 2 years since my ex and I had been going through this different time of our lives and moving away from each other. And so there was also a long time of questioning, is this working? Is this not working? We're going in different directions. And so I had asked for a separation, and with the intent to work through, asked for a separation. And then 10 days later, my dogs were killed by coyotes. Yeah. Wow, I am so emotional today. So that happened. And it was right at the time I was getting ready to launch Kinergy on tour with Oprah. And I felt so out of integrity or out of like alignment that I'm about to start this company, which is all about helping people connect to themselves and living their most expanded, free self. And I've just got my assistant and I are breaking up. My ex and I, my husband at the time, I'm asking for a separation because something's not working. My dogs that represented unconditional love and safety, gone. And I'm like, whoa, what am I doing? I'm blowing up my life. And I have to go and perform on stage, which is like the whole purpose is to help people like connect to themselves. And I'm feeling very disconnected right now after all these like painful things are unraveling, even though they were the things that were not in alignment as I was shifting in a new direction. And so what I realized is like with change is loss, and like going through any kind of loss is painful, even if it is the right thing. And so as that was happening, I was just like experiencing pain out of a decision that I felt like was the right thing for me. And also they were experiencing pain. And so that was just, it was really, it was like a mind F, like what's happening here.
Well, and all of this loss all around you, all this unraveling, you still decided, I want to go through with it because you decided to trust yourself that it was right for you, even in the midst of everything else.
Yes. And I still was like, I have this knowing, I know. And as I had never felt more clear about, I cannot abandon myself in this moment. Like I have to stay true to myself. And this is the first time I've ever done that. And so I kept on the journey. I started Kinergy and we went on tour with Oprah, and then the pandemic happened. And then with that journey, there was so much unraveling of a lot of our guides that we had trained because it's a self-discovery platform and we all went through training. And so all of us were going through this big transformation because it had activated also them. And then the pandemic happened and everyone's feeling uncertain. And so there was a lot of weight and responsibility that I felt for all of our employees and the company while I'm feeling so disconnected. And I mean, there were decisions. I was just trying to survive at this point because I was like, hang on, what's happening? I'm supposed to be this most expansive version of myself. I just started having all this beautiful, like divine grace and knowing and connection. And I'm experiencing the opposite right now. And so all of this is happening. And my tightest group of friends that, were within my orbit also didn't show up for me the way that I needed it. And again, that's in my experience, and I can see that now, but definitely did not show up for me in the way that I needed it. So all the friends in the group that I had that was very small, their actions and their behaviors were really painful and hurtful as well. And so the friend group, so all of this is to say self-others world is a big philosophy that I have, which is like you connect to yourself. And when you do that, you can relate to others. And when you can relate to others, you can experience the world. Well, it also goes the opposite way. So as I was unraveling all of my stuff, now the people around me were also starting to unravel. And this third layer, which is your career and the things that you put out into the world, all of that is starting to unravel now. And so I always look at it as in like spirals. It's like you do the same lesson in the same pattern. You go around and around, and the lesson gets shorter every time you experience it until you get to the like, ooh, that's the core of that one. And I feel that. And now I'm sitting here for a minute, letting it like process and integrate. And then you can come back out. And then you can serve that way. But you have to kind of go inward and delayer all of those things in order to like sit and now create. And so that's what I've been in the sitting place for the last few years which is, by the way, book 2. I like to call it the death hole pit of shit era because all of the things that were in my life came apart and out of a choice that was choosing me in my like most honest and true way, even though it was painful for me and it was painful for the people and the things around me. And those, you know, it was a lot of loss, a lot of grief, and experiencing a lot of abandonment and betrayal and things that like are very charged words to use. But I also had to like own that was my experience and how I was feeling. And that's the fire lesson that she goes through, that she feels this anger and this visceralness, and she has to experience it. She has to feel it. Otherwise, it's just this burning thing that's happening. And what's underneath that is really just hurt. And if you never get to it, then it's just going to sit there in your body and you're going to get sick and all sorts of things. So I say that with a laugh, but I mean it, you know, like those things manifest that way. And so as all of that was unraveling, now I'm, you know, in this stillness space. And I was like, okay, this is not easy, but I'm going to intentionally create my life now. Instead of do the thing that I think I'm supposed to do and fall into it and realize, did I even choose any of this? And so that's been the last few years. And all the while that was happening, I wrote this book, which was like the expansion part, the activation of her gifts that she's experiencing, the trust that she's starting to feel. And while I was writing the book, I was going through all of that loss at the time. So that's why it took me 4.5 years, because I was like, again, I feel out of alignment and integrity with writing this because I feel different than when this happened. And so it was hard to go back and forth because I was actually quite angry at the expansion that I had because I associate it with so much pain. And I remember having this like absolute knowing of like divine, you know, God and grace, and like feeling like so protected and so held. And I was like, this is the opposite of what I was supposed to, you know. I'm feeling so much pain. And from that point, I just surrendered to it. I was like, I am a survivor. I know I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be better than okay. I've felt what it's going to be like on the other side before all of this happened. And I need to trust. So I would just day by day, just wake up, and was very intentional about not getting into another relationship, was very intentional about what's the work that I want to do, being very intentional about the friendships and the family and the healing that I wanted to invest in. And that was very, very intentional because I don't want to repeat. I don't want to repeat patterns. I don't want to act from my 5-year-old, my 4-year-old self, my 10-year-old self, my 15-year-old self, or even my 25-year-old self, you know, like I want to act from the woman who has gone through everything that I've gone through and is acting from this place in this chair right now.
You know, you shared so many layers of unraveling. And I think one of the things that you shared that I think is just so important is that it's not easy. Like sometimes we can hear someone say, I decided to trust myself. And also doing that can come with a lot of change. And you share even friends shifting, right? A lot of people, when they start to grow, their friends or their families like, you're changing, as if it's a bad thing, right? And a lot of people have no interest in evolving or changing. And so a lot of people kind of retreat. And then they go back to just like, well, because as you mentioned earlier, like we all need love and belonging and, you know, all the things. And so then they retreat and connection. And, you know, I just want to call that out, that your journey of trusting yourself and knowing that this, and trusting your knowing and going through it. Which
I know you know a lot about.
About knowing. Yeah. It's just like, oh my gosh, but it's hard to trust our knowing when maybe doing that comes with, you know, change or loss or grief or hard times. You've shared also a lot about the last 4 years in particular about going through a lot of emotions,
Yeah.
anxiety, depression, all of it. How did that factor into this unraveling that you've been experiencing?
Well, whether it's the, ingrained religious system that I was built in, or the competitive one, or everything's fine, I'm going to keep moving forward mentality that I created myself, whatever that is, I never wanted to allow myself to feel those things, because if I feel those things, again, like something's wrong with me, or like I don't want to be stuck there. Like there's no way that I want to be stuck in this feeling. Like you just always got to move forward, always got to move forward. And so allowing myself to be human and actually experience those true feelings didn't mean that I needed to be stuck there forever. And in fact, by actually acknowledging that I was feeling that and allowing myself to feel that, I got out of it quicker than trying to not experience that, trying to avoid ever feeling depressed or anxious. Now that I've opened it up, I look at it this way. Like I was living in a box like this where everything is good, everything is positive. But as you expand, you also expand this way too. So the more you're going to experience the good, you're also going to experience the gamut and the pendulum swing of what's within. So if I wanted to just live in this tight little box, fine. And a lot of people choose to stay in the box, because it's safe and it's contained. But I want to experience the gamut of life. I want to be able to have empathy for myself and for the people that are experiencing these things. And because I allowed myself to experience what it truly felt like to not want to get out of bed, I understood my sister. I can understand people when they're going through things from a visceral, I know, I get that. I've experienced that too. Not just having compassion for someone who has gone through something. And that's a beautiful thing too, to have compassion for people if you've not gone through something similar. But to have that experience and that knowing, I believe, again, it not that you should be trauma bonding with people, but it definitely, you are known. And I want other people to feel known when I'm speaking to them too, that I get you, I see you, and I feel you, and I've been there too. And we're going to be okay. All of the things that were in my life came apart, and out of a choice that was choosing me in my most honest and true way, even though it was painful for me and it was painful for the people and the things around me.